We live in an information age. Everybody has a tablet or a smartphone at their disposal. You should not be hiring anyone to do your social media for your own personal pages unless you are a huge celebrity. Let me explain. We are now living in an information age where everybody has a massive amount of information at their fingertips. You can go through so many different identities, so many different profiles, and still not feel like you have the right one for yourself. It's time to stop outsourcing your social media management to people who don't understand your own brand name and who you are as a person, and to find your voice. And this is a topic, the biggest thing that I honestly see so much is people who are looking for freelancers to help them with their own personal brand. And let me tell you guys why this may not be the big flex or biggest, what could be one of the biggest mistakes that you do while you're trying to build your own personal brand. And this is also from someone who also used to be a social media manager, so that you will actually find your own unique voice. Stop looking for your voice in a crowd of people, and actually create that vibe that you want to be. And this is something that I see a lot of the times when it's either someone who's looking to build a brand that will probably more product based, that they've literally put their whole entire heart, soul, energy, all that into making a business that is literally catered for people who are just like them. But then you bring on someone who is there to do social media management, but they kind of will possibly will fully understand your overall movement, but they won't understand the actual antithesis of why it is that you started, or be able to convey that to your audience just like you can. And that is really what I want to get into about this video, is that so many people, especially who are just starting out, whether it be a brand, personal brand, or building a brand or business, is that I see them a lot of times being so afraid to do their own social medias, as well as starting what as well as starting their own brand design and strategy. And let me tell you why this may actually be one of the biggest mistakes. I can only speak from personal experience as someone who is running her own brand and has actually hired social media managers in the past to help her with it. And although I do not regret hiring and looking for outside help, but for this specific thing of building brand voice, especially early on, I want to not necessarily warn you, I want to give you a different view. One of the biggest trends that has been going on, one of the biggest things that has been going on in social media, especially in 2026 with the rise of AI, is people actually reclaiming what it means to have that unpolished, raw feeling. And this is nothing new. When we look at Vine, for example, and why that platform was so important in order for the culture and then also for relevancy, is because it was 6 seconds. You had minimal cuts, there was barely any edits, but it produced some of the biggest stars like King Bach, the Paul brothers, either bigger or smaller stars like that. And the reason why it was so successful is because everybody was being themselves, and it was really uncut, raw, unfeathered energy that Vine had and brought to social media and just our smartphones in general at a time that was not seen. And the main thing of why Vine was so successful is because it did not have that aesthetic, overly curated image that we see on platforms like Instagram, YouTube sometimes, and other platforms. And in that mess, it actually created Vine created a platform that was perfect for human connection, because that you were either going for a laugh or understanding something in such a split second of time, building community, and also engaging with creators who are similar to you, felt more of like a real relatable experience versus what we see today in terms of the prim polished aesthetics and sort of almost out of touch aesthetics out there that influencers push. And this definitely translates into today's world of what people are looking for. I feel as though, as a person who's grown up in an age of internet, is that every single social media since Vine has been chasing Vine, especially TikTok. And that instead of creating something that was simple and something that was uncurated, it turned into something else, something that was super hollow, performing just for the algorithm, and AI driven algorithms that don't necessarily connect anymore. And in turn, this has created a manufactured personal brand and brand identities. And I made a video about this previously, is that sometimes the vibes definitely outdo the skills. And in today's day and age of posting and about advertisement, everything that is screaming from the general populace is sort of an anti AI approach, almost in a sense, whereas though the average person, although likes AI, does not see the benefit of AI, doesn't want it in their overall day to day lives, and really wants to have minimal personal interactions with AI as possible, including on social media. And the progression of this natural vibe economy is going to not only accelerate, but get even more and more bigger, because people are going and are mentally and cognitively ready to not be overwhelmed by slop, not be fed slop by companies, and are looking for something outside of what we just see on overarching, overly curated, aesthetically pleasing social media feeds that we are all subject to. And that comes from naturally selecting vibes that are better for us. And in today's day and age, it doesn't actually matter about how much you post, how frequently you post. It matters about the quality of your content, not in the sense of having it overly polished, but does this look real? Did a human actually edit this? That's what people are asking themselves nowadays. And if you can overly deliver in a way where as though, hey, it's raw, it's uncut, it's less edited, that is actually what is more desired, and really cuts out the middleman of even needing someone to come in to do consulting work or to do more of the same that everybody else is doing in terms of the generic branding that is out here, just really oversaturating the market. And so we, a lot of the times as people, especially creatives or business people, you get so overwhelmed by the word oversaturated. And I'm here to tell you that something being oversaturated isn't necessarily a bad thing, because in a market where it's super difficult for, in a market where it's super easy to blend in, it becomes not necessarily harder to stand out. It becomes simpler to stand out, because if you bring that uniqueness, that new bold point of view, you will find yourself with more genuine reactions than disingenuine reactions, because you're not trying to market for everyone. You're not trying to be a part of every little niche and build off of those little tiny niches and trying to combine everything. You're just focused on one thing that you're doing really good of, showing the raw, uncut content from that. And in that, a lot of people are going to be attracted to it. And this is just from the trends. Let me guys know what you think about when you post, especially the less edited things. It brings in so much more people than the overly edited films, voiceovers, all of those things, because it took less time and effort. And it's almost like the community can sniff it out. They can sniff out brand deals. They can sniff out things that really aren't genuine or organic, and the algorithm wants to see more of that organic content. And also not being afraid necessarily to show the brand, to tell your story, because that is exactly what makes your personal brand you. And that's something that I had to learn myself, from starting my own wellness brand to basically creating my own YouTube channel, is that, hey, I tried to hire all of these people to who I tried to hire people to help me with social medias, which really did help me along the road with learning how to work with others, and also to learn what type of businesses that I would actually have a social media manager for. As someone who has been a social media manager for different brands, let me tell you that a lot of the times that I want to work with a person, just understanding that a lot of the times that you're thinking, oh, I need a social media manager in order to have consistent posts and to really pump it out to a larger audience. Another thing that you have to take into consideration is that, what does my audience actually want to see? Do they want to see something that's super edited, super organic, and super generic, but not necessarily coming from my side of things? And that's why I believe that the savings as well as the actual support can come in there, instead of having someone do all of the work, being able to have a strategy that is in place that still keeps that organic as well as unique perspective that you bring to your own brand. And having that intact is super important in today's world. and making sure that you stay unique to the different brands out there. Because if you have one person who is passionate about one thing that they're really great at, and they share their story, they share exactly what it is that they've been doing the entire time, and they build an audience around that, versus someone who is a huge corporation, doesn't really understand their audience, or has that person who's going to be saying that they're not passionate about it. You have a whole team of people where it is spread thin. I believe that having one person who is really passionate about it, and then they get more influencers who are passionate about it to post about it, the person who is more passionate about it and is sharing their story from the jump is going to have that fan base and that cult following that is really going to help them. Case in point is, I can think of a Poppy, for example. Poppy is a great example of this in real time, of having someone who, the founder is like a woman, and then she started to post her beverage process of creating a beverage drink, and sharing it with her TikTok followers. She grew this TikTok account to a couple thousand, then it grew to a couple million, and then it grew to even more millions. Why? Because she had a following from the beginning who had watched her grow, who had watched her build this business, and who had watched her get into stores, Whole Foods, grocery stores, mom and pop stores, corner stores, her get into all of these amazing deals in real time. It not only grew to having an audience that understood the product, but an audience that was actually more passionate and more engaged in in the process, or in the actual group. And this leads me to understanding that you're not just building process or in the actual group. And this leads me to understanding that you're not just building something, you're not just building a product, you're not just building a website, you're not just building an app or an idea. You are building, or even your own personal, you're not just building that. You're building, and that potential is, to impact people in meaningful ways, as well as being able to possibly even pay your bills in the future. And just understanding that, yes, it's amazing for people to come on board and to give you the strategies that you're able to do. I hope this video wasn't too much, and I hope that you guys took something from it. Definitely understanding that, hey, social media managers and strategists like myself, very important. I'm no longer a social media manager. I do brand strategy, and this is one of the things that I have had to learn along the way of lighting money on fire, of working with people who do their best to convey the brand story, but are not actually the person who started the brand, so they cannot speak to all of the passions and actually convey it to the audience in a way that was super meaningful for my own personal brand, of course, but also for my businesses. And so, yeah, able to keep all of that intact while also getting that support that you need is definitely the biggest thing of hiring them, instead to, photos or to do strategy work, as opposed to managing all of the social media and producing the content for the social media. So yeah, really the point that I wanted to drive in there, and hopefully you guys took something from the video. And yeah, let me guys know what you think about, do you think that you're able to, businesses have, or brands have become less generic in the past, I would say 6 years or so? Let me guys know what you think in the comments. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.